Hello, YouTube divers. This is Water Dive 122, and I want to welcome you all to another episode of Coda of Soda. So today, this is going to be a comparison and/or ranking video because we have 5 root beers that we are reviewing, that we are basically comparing them against. So what I did before in preparation for this video, I jotted down some notes. I did a little bit of a taste test where I took a sip of every single root beer here, and I judged them based on several categories. Those categories include flavor and/or aroma, fizziness, aftertaste, creaminess, and color. So I added a couple more of categories of qualities because I feel like root beer has more qualities than your regular average soda because it's frickin' root beer. It's going to have more expectations. But, so the root beers that I have here today are all root beers that have made appearances on this channel at least at one point. And those root beers we got are Virgil's, Frosty, even though this is the vanilla flavor and not the regular flavor, Boylan root beer, and Summit's root beer, and Hank's root beer. So we got a pretty strong set of root beers to review here on this episode. So let's get right into it, shall we? So basically what I did, I judged these root beers and gave them a score out of 5. And at the very end of the taste test, I added up all the scores in every single category and gave each root beer a grand total score. The highest one was my favorite, lowest, least favorite. Pretty self-explanatory if you ask me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this party started. We're going to go ahead and do our root beer ranking, and I'll give you a little bit of a perspective as to why I ranked it either so high or so low. So my least favorite out of these root beers is Virgil's. Not really much of a surprise. I was very disappointed in it when I reviewed it for the first time a few weeks ago. Don't remember. It has a very, 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 very flat flavor. Almost going into, dare I say, diet and or zero sugar territory, where it's pretty much just artificial stuff. So yeah, the flavor, definitely the weakest part of this soda by far. But where this soda does shine, and I will give credit where it's due, is its aftertaste. The aftertaste is very, very nice. It's very sharp. It's very bite heavy. But overall, it's not that bad. And it's definitely hands down the best part of this soda. But yeah, Virgil's still, in my opinion, not really that great of a root beer, if you ask me. Especially when you hold it up to some of the other root beers I've had. Alright, so now we move on to number 4. And that is Boylan root beer. So Boylan, as I've said when I reviewed it individually, I said it was the most overrated root beer of all time. Mainly because it won first place in the Great American Root Beer Showdown way back in 2004. I simply do not agree with that at all. Hence why I think it's overrated. However, it's not terrible. While maybe overrated, it's still a good soda. Where this soda really shines, again, is its aftertaste. And like with Virgil's, it has a very sharp, it has a very bite-heavy aftertaste, but it's more smoother than Virgil's. And its flavor is way better, too. Like, I love the first taste. It feels like you're eating strawberries. Like, in my opinion, it feels like you're eating strawberries. It's just has that strawberry-esque type of flavor. It's really good. Really unique. But then again, it's Boylan, the most unpredictable soda company of all time. So, yeah. Now we move on to number 3, Vanilla Frosty. So Frosty is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated root beer labels of all time. I've never really quite understood why they never get so much attention, because these guys make some freaking amazing root beer. Like, probably a top 10 root beer. Like, their regular root beer, easily in my top 10. Might need to do a video on that someday. Who knows? Okay, so, this is my first experience with vanilla Frosty, and it tastes exactly like a root beer float. And, you know, I love me a root beer float. It's so good. And, you know, another home run for Frosty, in my opinion. Fantastic, fantastic root beer. And again, it really shines within its aftertaste and color. Really, really fizzy. And it's very, very dark. I really like that. Now we move on to number 2, and that is Summit's Root Beer. So Summit's Root Beer. I praised this root beer to death when I reviewed it individually. And it still has lived up to the hype. It is an absolutely fantastic root beer. And again, just like with Frosty, one of the most underrated root beers of all time, in my opinion at least. With Summit's Root Beer, in my opinion, its flavor is just amazing. It's what sets it apart above the rest. But however, I actually like its color the best. I really love its color. It's a fantastic blend of dark and lots of head in there. Like, if you pour it into a glass, it's just very fizzy, if you know what I mean. And while the fizziness and the aftertaste is kind of meh for me with this soda, on this most recent experience, it's still enjoyable. It's really good. I love Summits. It's a fantastic root beer. However, and you know what the grand champion is, it's Hank's. Pretty much knocks it out of the park in every single category. While the flavor didn't really hook on me like it usually does, it's still a very majestic flavor. Fizziness is top notch. Aftertaste is kind of meh. But really, the creaminess and the color, perfect scores. And this was the only root beer that achieved perfect scores in 3 or more categories. Yeah, Hank's is still my all-time favorite root beer. And for obvious reasons. I mean, I've already talked to death about this soda. And there will be a time where I will compare, we'll go into a little bit more detail between Hank's and Summit's Root Beer. So expect these two to make an appearance again on the next Coda of Soda episode. I will have these bottles saved up for that episode. And yeah, we're going to have a ball tomorrow. I will tell you that right now. But if you've had any of these rarity root beers, please let me know down in the comment section below what your favorite out of these root beers are. Of course, mine is still Hank's. Pretty well documented. But yeah, I'd be curious to know what you guys have to say. So with that said, that concludes this edition of Coda of Soda. I know I only have 2 of these up here and not the other 3. But yeah, these are my top 2, and so we're going to end off the video with them. So with that said, thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is WaterDive122 signing out, ready to dive and more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.